Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to a look at the nominees for Planet F1's recovery drive of the season. I'm joined by Jonty to discuss a few of those nominees, and then after that, once again, it's down to you guys. You can vote by following the link in the description that will take you to planetf1.com, and your 5 nominees are Alonso's recovery in Baku, Hamilton at Silverstone, Hamilton again in Germany, Verstappen in the US, and also Verstappen in Russia. I think for this one, we'll start with what I'm going to call Alonso's double recovery in Baku. Obviously, he had that incident on the first lap where he got sandwiched. That caused damage to his car and left him with a double puncture. I think it was about turn 3 and managed to crawl his way back to the pits. That in itself, Jonty, is one hell of a recovery without even including the fact he managed to make his way back up into the points.
Yeah, I mean, he got both the punctures, like you say, before turn 3. That means he's had to go around something like 80% of the lap with only 2 wheels. And that includes going up through that twisty castle section. But how he didn't manage to put it in the wall there is a mystery. And then getting back to the pits, he got it perfectly in the pit box. That's ridiculous. You watch the onboard, I'm just wondering how on earth he managed it.
It's just typical Alonso. You know, not many drivers would be able to do that. Yeah, you could argue your world champions like Hamilton and Vettel might be able to pull that one off, but it's a hell of a drive and determination to get it back to the pits. And then on top of that, with a car which must have been damaged to some point, to fight his way back through the field, and also in a car that was underpowered versus much of the midfield around Baku, which is quite important down that long straight to have a decent amount of power, to make his way back up to 7th place, I think that just typifies Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, it's definitely his high point of the season. So like you say, it's a massive power deficit that they got. And at Baku, you could argue it's the worst place for it with how long that straight is. You've got a full 2 kilometres of flat out. And there was significant floor damage where most of the downforce is coming from. It's just incredible. And like you say, defines Fernando Alonso.
As I've said in all of these videos, for the sake of balance, we do need to point out he did benefit from safety cars after the Red Bulls were stupid. But that shouldn't take away from any of this. Like we've already said, underpowered car, a car that hasn't got a great chassis, damaged as well. I don't believe, looking maybe outside, like I've said, of Hamilton and Vettel, I'm not really sure anybody else on the grid could pull that off.
No, I'm wondering if there's anyone that really could without causing further damage and putting themselves out. You know, would there be anyone who would be that determined to drag such a damaged car all the way around?
That's a good point, because when you think about it, a lot of drivers maybe would listen to the team radio going, pull over, or would say, car's damaged, I'm out, and would just go down a side road or something, wouldn't they? But not Fernando Alonso, just determined. He just gave it everything, not just in that race, but for me, all season, in what was, let's be perfectly honest, a pretty terrible car. We're only going to discuss 3 of the 5 nominees for this one. And we have been talking a little bit before we were recording, and I think we've both agreed that Hamilton's comeback in Germany trumps his comeback at Silverstone. I think more because it turned out, Jonty, to be such a defining moment for the championship. And look at Saturday. I remember we did a live stream. I think it was the qualifying watch along. We were watching Hamilton by the side of his car after it broke down, looked absolutely devastated, a broken man. And I remember us saying that is the image we will remember if he does not take the title. And that all changed on Sunday.
And it changed in a very, very big way. I mean, who could have predicted Vettel going off in that way, opening the door for Hamilton to take the win? And it's not just that gave him it. We have to give him credit. We know about his wet weather skills, and in those changeable conditions, he kept it on track when it mattered most, and it paid dividends in the end. Like you say, 2 defining moments. We were all talking about how that could be the image of Hamilton beside his car, but as it turned out, it was Vettel kicking his car.
I think once again, for the sake of balance, we do need to look at the other side of this. And a lot of people would argue that you fully expect to see the Mercedes, the Ferrari, the Red Bulls coming back through the field. And if they fail to finish top 6, you'd consider that a bit of a failure. But I don't think that should take away from what Hamilton did in Germany. He had to fight those changeable conditions. Yes, like you said, Jonty, he's very good in those, but he's still got to manage that. It's still easy. You can be the best driver in the wet ever, but you can still make mistakes. And you can be the worst driver in the wet and still win races.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen Senna and Schumacher go off in changeable conditions. You know, even the best that there's ever been do make mistakes when the conditions are against you, and you've still got to make those moves on track. And you never know what's going to happen when passes are being made. You know, you never know who you're overtaking. It could be Grosjean, and anything could happen.
For me, as we've already kind of touched on, I feel like this comeback drive trumps his other ones simply because it was such a defining moment in the championship. And from Germany onwards, he never really looked back. So that Sunday was absolutely huge for him.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, you could see the change in attitude when he was on the podium. You could see it in his face that I can actually take this. And the determination that came after that was just all the more greater because of it.
Last up, though, for this one is Max Verstappen at the US. I know quite a few people might want Russia on there and for us to discuss that a little bit more. But what does this for me, Jonty, is the fact that it's 18th on the grid, I believe, all the way up to second place. And as we were discussing before we actually started recording this, a couple more laps, he could have easily taken that victory. And his defensive driving against Hamilton as well towards the end, with the title on the line for Lewis, was exceptional to watch. I loved that fight towards the end. Top three in the same shot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what we all want to see all the leading cars on the screen at once, not messing around with playing undercuts and what have you, just a straight fight on track. Absolutely brilliant. And like you say, a few more laps, he could well have taken the victory. They did get the strategy right, and he was blindingly quick all day. A great drive, and in some ways for him, a bit of sweet justice for the year before.
Oh, of course, I always forget about that. What happened a year before? Obviously, that's why the Verstappers were there, weren't they? Those really weird sausage curbs on the corner. But I think he really deserved that result, and his comeback was one of the best I've seen him pull off. But I think the funny thing with Verstappen, we were talking about this on Monday, I believe, with Dan. His turnaround, not just in the US, not just in Russia, but his turnaround as a whole for the season has been spectacular and something that I've not seen for a long time. And I know I'm talking about what I talked about on Monday rather than the overtake, but I kind of want to get Jonty's say on this. When was the last time you can remember a driver from anywhere turning a season around in the way that Verstappen has?
Well, exactly. I'm sitting here trying to think, and it's very, very difficult. Perhaps. No, I'm struggling to think. I'd have to go and research because there isn't anything that sticks out in my mind. It's such a massive change in his approach to the races and his attitude behind the wheel.
I do feel like the US Grand Prix was one of, if not his best drives of the season. Maybe Mexico better because he just absolutely dominated. But aside from any of those that he won, right up there with drives of the season for Verstappen, let alone comebacks.
I'd probably put it as his best drive of the season. Mexico was his fastest because he was just in another league to everyone else. But in the USA, he had all those overtakes to make at the same time. It's one thing to be fast, but you've got to be fast and get around cars. It's a whole different ball game, and you've got to be so much more precise and determined with the moves you make, and be smart about when you make them. That was the big difference.
And also not necessarily a track you would associate as being a strong one for Red Bull. So really good drive from Verstappen. Actually, all of these on the list, as I've said for a couple of the videos now, are very good comebacks and deserve to be on there. But Jonty, if you're voting, what's your comeback of the season?
It's tough. It's very tight between my two preferred choices, but I'd probably have to go with Alonso. Maybe there's a little bit of nostalgia there because he's gone now, but just getting the car back to the pit is worthy of winning the award. But then taking it into the points and not just scraping a point up to seventh is just an incredible achievement. And I'd probably have Max just behind that because he came from so much further down and nearly won.
I think that's an absolutely great shout. I think Alonso deserves a lot of credit for that drive. Fantastic drive, but I'm going to go with Verstappen in the US. For me, one of his best drives of the season and just absolutely shows the difference between his first half and his second half in one race, quite frankly. But they are just our thoughts and our opinions. Ultimately, it's down to you guys. Who are you going to vote for your recovery drive of the season? You can vote by heading over to planetf1.com via the link in the description. Once again, that vote closes on Saturday, December 8th, and we will be revealing the results together on Monday, December 10th. Now, we will be back tomorrow with the nominees for best race of the season. But in the meantime, you can follow me over on social media. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.